Mr. Bonnie. Ooh, as soon as he accepts, then we'll go rolling. What up, y'all? Got about 5 minutes before we get rolling, and we will be set up. So today is, I'm going to say my favorite day, but it's a pretty sweet day because we're going over the first checkbox in our 4D sales process, right? Which is ultimately, is the product, is the problem, right? I should say product. Is the problem big enough for the customer to actually act? And to me, this is one of the largest qualification or disqualification, I should say, steps that we should be taking as a sales rep. So we're going to dive deep into this. If you guys have seen this side before, as you know, it's always a little bit of a tweak, a little bit different inside each one of those. And we're going to be getting that going. So you guys are joining. We got like, again, 5 minutes, 4 minutes before we get rolling, and we'll go from there. I'll be back in a sec. David, step one is you have to accept the promotion to come in as a panelist. Just click the little thing that says accept, and we can get this rolling.
You're so mean.
There we go.
You're judgmental.
I'm not judgmental. I want to help you. You're struggling with technology today, and that's okay. It's Tuesday.
Me?
Yeah, you didn't press the accept button when I was trying to promote you.
You're being judgy.
I would be judgy if you didn't have your camera on. That would be judgy.
I gotta make bubbles.
To each their own. To each their own. What's up, guys? All right, a few minutes before we get rolling here. But as you can kind of see, today's events, we're talking about, is the problem big enough for your client, customer, prospect, whatever we want to call it? Is the problem big enough for them to actually act? And this is the first qualification, or more importantly, disqualification that we're going to talk through, because in order to be able to have an awesome close rate, you guys need to make sure that we're disqualifying all the sludge, all of the bad leads, all of the tire kickers, everything else that's coming through the funnel. That way, when you get to the point of using everyone's time, when I say using everyone's time, it means you showing up, right? 2, your customer. 3, if you have someone who's inspecting the building. 4, the estimator who's putting the proposal together. And 5, probably you and the customer meeting again to deliver a proposal that ultimately might not be a project that they even understand, right? What the cost is, right? What's the return on investment, which we'll get into a little bit deeper as we start kind of making our way through what is the 4D sales process. So 2 o'clock on the dot. David has his camera on. Do you have your bubbles? Good. Everybody's got their thing. And David loves his carbonated water. That's fine. Whatever you guys have. I've been a Red Bull addict. I'm recovering at this point right now. So I've switched to just Dunkin' Donuts coffee. And don't get me started on Starbucks. So whole different conversation for a different day.
Disclaimer, I do not want to condone unhealthy behavior in anybody. So obviously the Red Bull and the Dunkin' Donuts is a lot more healthy than my carbonated water. And I apologize. I'm trying to get better. Chad's trying to make me a healthier person because he cares about me. And I appreciate that.
Everyone deserves to be happy.
And I think Vaughn wants you to get back on the Red Bull.
I bet he does. I bet
Vaughn
he
wants you to get back on the Red Bull, dude.
I mean, this wasn't cans of Red Bull, guys. This was cases of Red Bull.
Don't be a quitter, is what Vaughn's saying. Don't be a quitter.
Don't be a quitter with pallets. Pallets. Talk about committed. If I would have bought stock back when I was buying pallets of Red Bull, it would have been in a different spot right now.
Now, I will say one thing on this, Chad. So it's funny because not only are we talking about the qualification of leads, the other thing I'll say on this is that when I was a rep, I got accused multiple times of I was getting the best leads. My manager was sending me the best leads. That's the only reason why I was successful. Right? It's like, no, I didn't have any reps that I train this stuff on. They do better. And most of the times when I have to go into departments and turn over teams, I hire in new people. I teach them the system. They go execute it. They do better. And inevitably, what do the old school guys do? Oh, you're sending the best leads to the new guys. No. The key is when you guys go through and unpack this information, most of the time it's there. When it's not, you disqualify it. But most of the time it is there. And when you do unpack it, magically your lead quality gets better. Your lead quality goes up. And we'll say it all the time. Lead quality is far more determined by the salesperson than the marketing channel or the prospecting strategy.
I agree with that. Now, number one, the whole disqualification, right? The 4D sales process, this is for a sales rep, but I can tell you it can absolutely be implemented into the SDR, your sales development, telemarketer, or even you guys just going around doing drops at buildings.
Yep.
This is still a part of that. Because the quicker that we can figure out what the problem or goal is that the customer has, is the quicker that we can start crafting a solution and ultimately differentiating ourselves from everything else that they know. Yep. Right? Because we're in a very unique time where if something goes wrong, you can just Google it. You can just YouTube it. I mean, there's videos out there that'll literally tell you how to replace a commercial roof. And 99% of them are wrong, 1%'s right, but perception's reality. So the part that also sucks, and I say this from direct on a sales side, is sometimes the customer knows more about what you guys are talking about, or at least presenting, than sometimes the sales reps do, right? Yep. Mechanically attached, 60 mil, EPDM with an R30. I mean, as a sales rep, right, if you know that, that's awesome. But there's a lot of people who are being self-educated. So being able to go in there and kind of differentiate yourself from, ultimately, we all have the same roof, right? But the experience, right? And how you guys shift from being that commodity contractor into what we consider a trusted advisor, right? Someone who's the first call to be able to help solve a problem is how you start, making that bridge into long-term customers, reoccurring revenue. I mean, all the buzzwords you have going around, there's a reason that customers stay with certain contractors. And I promise you, it's not the price. There's a lot more to it.
Nope. Yeah, before we get started, I do want to, Chris Key, I did wear my black shirt today just for you, buddy. Sorry, I disappointed a few weeks ago, but I'm back on.
Yep. And I got my t-shirt on. I know there's been a lot of feelings about me not wearing collared shirts, and you guys get me in the rawest form. So you're welcome.
You got buttons on.
I do got buttons, right? Yeah, that's an upgrade. One thing I'll mention, and this is just a little tidbit of thing, I'm going to recommend that you guys dress to the individuals that you're meeting. Because I've had this conversation a lot. Oh. And if you are going in to meet with a maintenance manager that's under a machine with oil on his hands, don't wear a suit, guys. I know that seems like, oh, of course I wouldn't do that. But like dress, people want to work with peers. They don't want to look up or look down at somebody, right? So if you're going into a big meeting on the 53rd floor of a high rise and you're with a bunch of business execs, dress the part. But also at that same point, it's not a bad thing, inside my opinion, to be able to be inside, let's just say, nice blue jeans, right? A collared shirt, something like that, right? If that's the people that you're meeting with. So little bit on my side of my recommendation is dress to the meeting that you're going to. There's a lot of ways to be able to figure that out. Different conversation for a different day.
But again, it goes back to when you do that, you clear the way. They're not worried about what you look like and why you look that way. They can just be worried about their problem and how you can help them.
100%. 100%. All right, cool. So let's do this. Welcome, guys. No Reps Left Behind. We are on session 2 of 8 at this point right now. So we're going to be going through the first checkbox. If you guys were here last week, you got the big 10,000 foot view of what is the 4D sales process. And hats off to you guys, but we're going to be going deeper. Each week, we're taking one segment of the 4D sales process and literally breaking it apart. We're going to go through leading yourself, which we talked about last week. And then ultimately, we're going to get into something called halftime, which is an awesome way to be able to reframe, clean up your book of business, and a lot of different tips that you guys are going to get along the way. So this is No Reps Left Behind. Thank you guys for joining. My name is Chad Westbrook. I'm the founder of Service Alignment. If you haven't checked it out, you're missing out. We focus on the commercial roofing scene, and I'll say very, very specific to the service side of the business, right? Because a roof is going to leak 100 times before the customer chooses to be able to replace it. So it's an awesome place to be able to build the relationship, get reoccurring revenue, and better position yourself for when those capital projects come. So whether it be lead development, service sales, my background's on here. I don't have to repeat it, guys. But that's what I've done for my career. And that's the reason I'm bringing No Reps Left Behind to you guys. So hope you enjoy it and share it. I'll say it a few times throughout this, but share it, guys.
Guys, David Bonney, founder of 45, started off in sales a long time ago, and I sucked at it. I was so bad. I didn't even want to be in it. I had to be because it's the only job I could get at the time. But I figured it out. And as I figured it out and shot to the top of the West Coast division at a Fortune 500 company, I then tried to help other people figure it out. And as I did that, I tried to help teams figure it out and departments and so on and so forth. Now I'm obviously helping companies. I've written a couple of books. I have a shared affinity and passion for the commercial roofing space based on clients and companies that I've worked with. That's how I met Chad. But I've been through the whole grind and struggle. And the hope is that you guys don't have to go through that same grind and struggle, because we can shortcut you guys there. We can give you guys the tips and tricks so you don't make the same did for so long.
There you go. Awesomely said. If I was to explain David, I would tell you that his superpower is extracting information, which is absolutely fabulous for me because I have all of this in my head, right? I've done this for years and years. And what David and I are ultimately creating within No Reps Left Behind, and what we're going to talk about inside the next slide, is ultimately extracting all of that inside a way that we can duplicate it. And that's what I did in my career. So David, you're a massive asset here. And through some of the methodology, that's what kind of makes David and I so powerful inside the industry. So we haven't had this slide before, so I want to talk a little bit about this because next week we're going to have one more process to this. So you guys are a part of No Reps Left Behind. The easiest way to be able to explain that is this teaches you guys a sales process. Success is based upon process. You got to have a way of doing things, right, that give you a very similar or exact result. That's what the 3 checkboxes are. We're giving you guys a way to be able to go into a customer and be able to A, differentiate yourself, and then B, have a process, have questions, understand why you're asking those questions and when you ask those questions. So awesome for you guys being here. It's 100% free, right? So you guys are here and that's absolutely awesome. The second part to this, which is something that David and I have had inside, I'll say the locker for a little while, is War Room. And what happened inside War Room is we're taking that step from, let's just say, your independent warrior out in the field. And we're ultimately teaching sales leaders how to run an army, right? How to manage that. And it's done through 3 separate pillars. So the first pillar is operational strategy, right? That's the plan. Where are you going? How are you getting there? Because you say you want to be $1 million or $100 million company. That's great. If you don't have the plan to get there, everyone's going to end up somewhere different. The second part is people
aside from the plan of, hey, salespeople, we're just going to increase your quota, go figure it out, right? We all love that plan. No, an actual plan. That's not a plan. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you make a great point inside there, right? So it's not just pie in the sky, throw something on the wall, see what's happening. Number two is people leadership. So we're teaching ultimately how to do one-on-ones and ultimately how to make sure that if you guys are a sales rep, that your manager's actually helping, coaching, and mentoring you guys to get to your goal. Because my belief is a manager or a leader is there to be able to help the individuals who are doing the actions. So we're teaching that. And then ultimately training and tools, right? No reps left behind is a part of that, right? What training do you have? What tools? Because at the end of the day, what we want you to have is habits, right? Habits of what questions do you ask? When do you ask them? And then what tools is going to make it easier for you guys, right? The nightmare of CRM and data entry, it doesn't have to be like that. There's a way to be able to use the tools effectively to make you guys more successful. So War Room is something that we're rolling out inside August. If you've seen some stuff on it, again, pass it along. This is, again, a leadership course that we're rolling out. And like I said, some more stuff coming down the pipeline in the next couple of weeks. It's going to kind of bridge the gap of what we have going on in our industry. Anything you want to add to that, David?
Nope. I think we're to try to improve things. We got to improve it at the rep level, but also the company level. We know that, guys, and it's a two-sided coin, and we got to make sure that we're attacking both sides if we're going to have the impact.
Awesome. All right. You want to take us through this, sir?
Yeah. So I think that, the question that we ask, or that I used to ask myself a ton, and that I still ask myself, but more to macro view, is how many of us here have lost a deal in the last 3 months that we know we could have or should have won? I'm sure it's all of us, right? It's just really a question of how many. But the key is that we have to understand the opportunity that we have in sales, and I call it a responsibility. And we use this graphic because this is a ripple effect. It's a ripple effect of what we believe is the most powerful role in business. As salespeople, or better yet, as trusted advisors, we have the responsibility to help our prospects clearly see the path forward to solving their problems and improving their lives. They're not experts in what we help them with. They're not. We deal with it hundreds of times a year. They deal with it a handful of times in their lives, right? So we have to see that the more that we can help people improve their lives, that sales is a virtuous cycle. Helping those people allows us to earn basically limitless amounts of money, so we can provide at the highest levels possible for the people that we love the most. But we have to also understand that this virtuous cycle instills a level of confidence that is undeniable when we walk in the door into our homes every single day. The confidence that there's really no limit to what we're able to achieve if we're willing to build our tool set and our skill set. And this confidence and this mindset of abundance is essentially infectious, guys. And it's infectious to our kids and our spouses. It's infectious to our communities. And it's just so powerful. This is why we love sales. This is why we're dedicating our lives to this area. This is why we spend endless hours listening to calls, dissecting all of this, because, there's so many departments, more so in other industries, they seem like they're trying to figure out how to get sales out of the equation. Like, how do we just eliminate this role? We don't like it. We're trying to figure out how to perfect it because it's so dang meaningful. You can't get rid of it. It's not going anywhere. I don't care what AI advancements are out there. But it's a worthy cause because of not only the impact that it has to markets, but the impact that it does have on ourselves as it makes us better, as it makes our families better, and our quality of life. So we thank you guys for being here. This is super important for us, but we want you guys to wake up every day understanding the reality of the role that you're in and the importance that you play in the market that you're serving.
It's awesome. It's an awesome point. So it's empowering, right? So as a sales rep, you guys help solve issues, problems, right? You guys are an expert. Your customer wouldn't need you if they had the ability to be able to perform what you guys do, right? So you look at this, when David and I were talking about the ripple effect, and it's just, this is empowering to understand that as sales or a trusted advisor, you guys are the initial impact that's happening. But when you keep businesses running, right, that's when you start affecting, first off, our prospect, the customer, right? So you think about, I'm just going to use a restaurant, right? So you have a restaurant, all of a sudden you fix the leak in the restaurant. The first thing that you affect is the restaurant, right? Now it's operational. And then that's how you can keep Culver's or whatever your restaurant is, right, open, which is then going to feed the community. So what you guys do is so much bigger than just selling roofing, especially in the commercial side, because you guys truly are keeping America running and keeping those businesses operational, and an asset that is there to be able to protect the business. So it's a huge, huge part to be able to be empowered to understand that you are in commercial roofing, but commercial roofing is one of the most, I'll say, invaluable assets that a building has other than walls. So you got to be able to look, you got to be able to have that mindset, right? Transfer in and understand that when we put this stuff together, it's not just BS, guys. It's putting this together so you can be confident and be empowered that what you guys are doing is serving not only the customers, but ultimately families, communities, and everything beyond. So huge part of it, David. Awesome way to explain it, sir.
Yeah, the empathy is huge, guys. Like Chad said, right? You go in with that mindset, then your empathy to the customer, because you understand how important it is to them. That it's powerful. It's meaningful.
Yep. This is still yours.
Still me.
Still you. This is still you.
Okay.
I'm going to come in and drop in when, you know.
So the question is, what's the biggest thing that's keeping salespeople or keeping any of us from stepping into the state of service, the state of limitless abundance, right? So after all the call reviews that we've done, and I told you guys, we've done hundreds of thousands of these things. It's crazy how much of this stuff we do. There's one big rock that if we remove this can start that path to really unlimited success in the role. And it's really simple, but it's so freaking powerful. Sales rep failure is largely made up of an accumulation of small failures in gathering all of the needed information in the process, and then a failure to present it back clearly to potential buyers. This isn't some mystical art where we magically sprinkle fairy dust on people and get them to buy. They want to solve their biggest problems. If we can put a plan together, if we can extract all the information and then present a clear plan back to them, they will do it. But this inconsistency is plaguing salespeople. Even when we used to give them the processes without the tools, they would go in and they would still just miss critical pieces. And then the deal would blow up because we realized we weren't talking to the decision maker, or we didn't understand what their process was for buying this stuff, or whatever the case is. Right? So it's this consistency, it's this diligence, it's this pursuit of excellence that is so very important in our craft, that is actually one of the biggest puzzle pieces to solving for this greater picture of sales rep success.
Absolutely. So think about this, guys. This is the question that you assume. This is the question that you're afraid to ask because it's awkward. This is the question that you guys ultimately want to ask, but you're afraid to ask. So think about that, right? Maybe it's something that's so obvious, right? Of like, well, why don't you just do this yourself? Right? You don't want to ask that question. Naturally, you don't want to ask that question because you could lose the sale. And there's like, you know what? You're right. Maybe I should do this myself, or I should try this. And now all of a sudden, the opportunity that you thought you had is gone. And that's what we're challenging right here, guys, especially as we go through each one of these check boxes. It's something that we call the 2 degrees of separation. And that means when you guys first meet, that is your ultimately discovery call, right? That's the first time that you guys are interacting. And I'll say one of the old school, most entry level thing that I see happen is that when they show up, the sales rep starts talking about his company or her company, right? How great they are, how many years they've been inside business, da, 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 da. And at the end of the day, nobody cares about that at this point, right? Your customer doesn't care until they realize how much you care. You guys ever heard that quote? That's exactly how this plays in, because the customer called you, right? Or the customer engaged you, allowed you inside their office because they have a problem or a goal, more than likely, that they need to solve. The last thing they want to do is go directly into your qualifications and understand all the businesses that you work with. We don't even know what we're fixing. This might not even be something that our company can do. So when we talk about the 2 degrees of separation, we're talking about all of these little failures like David was talking about that continuously takes us further away from each other. And by the time that we deliver the proposal, we deliver a proposal for a completely separate product, solution, service, whatever you want to call it, than what the customer actually needs or wants. That's the 2 degrees of separation. So there is a book I think it's Atomic Habits by James Clear, I think was the book, that talks about a version of this 2 degrees of separation. And what it basically says is that there is a plane that leaves from California flying to New York City. And as it's flying, these slight little tweaks, right? I'm talking a percentage of a degree off that you would never even notice until about Arizona or Colorado, that it's like, man, they're not on track to go where they need to go. Even at this point, it could be Kansas, if you guys are looking at the screen, that you would not know the difference between a plane flying from Washington, D.C. to New York City. However, that 2 degrees of separation, that small piece of separation, could either end you in New York City or Washington, D.C. Massive differences on the other side. This is the same concept that we're using in sales, is that if you guys don't have complete alignment, right? Complete alignment, which means you guys are ultimately completely aligned to what the customer is trying to get. You're asking the questions that need to be asked. You're addressing all of the objections, concerns, or whatever it might be to make sure that you and the customer end up at the same spot at the same time. Because you don't want to get to the solution before the customer gets to the solution, because then at that point, you're trying to drag them along. And you don't want the customer saying, I know exactly what I need. Can you just do what I'm telling you to do? Because then again, you guys don't have complete alignment. You guys aren't going to end up at the finish line at the same time. This is why we put together a process. This is why sales reps need a process to be able to have consistent success, right? So we're talking about critical checkpoints that you guys need to be able to measure, okay? Measure. That means not maybe I'll ask the question next time, or you know what, I missed it. Oh, well, let's just push forward because this guy needs a proposal next week. I'm talking about going in and actually having a professional sales process that's going to give you the exact questions, the exact checkpoints to be able to eliminate all of the confusion, right? Because confusion, David said it best inside here, confused minds cannot act. And I say this all the time. What happens when you have a confused mind? They fill it with information, typically bad information, and information that is far worse than what it could have ever actually been. Think about that. You can think about it in kids, adults, anything like that. When there's a lack of information, people will input their own. You don't want that. So get the checkpoints, get that stuff out of here. So sales has changed. It's much more of a process and data-driven science, right, than artistic expression, because artistic expression means that you guys are walking in with no process and asking the questions based upon what comes to top of mind. That's not a process. There's no geared success inside that. What I'm talking about is understanding the failures that you guys have, right, or the failures that I've seen, and what I've crafted to be able to give a best practices process that's going to guarantee you guys success each time. So David, I know I stole this one for you, but I'll let you roll with this, sir.
No, it's all good. No, we're there to deliver a valuable service, guys. Not a persuasive conversation, not some manipulative conversation that gets them to do the thing that we want them to do. But I think the thing that we see the most is when we talk about this being more of a process and data-driven science, and because we have to go through and capture the right information on every single call, effectively what we see when we listen to a lot of sales calls, it's a bunch of random stuff. We can go through and listen to the same rep's call across 10 different prospects, and every single call is going to sound different. It's wild. We're just out there making it up, guys. And if we go to a sports analogy here, if we go to the next slide, it's just like we're playing open gym, or we're just out on the football field with bottle caps down on the ground, and we're telling everybody where to go. I mean, we're professionals, guys. We need to have a playbook. But the key to playbooks put you in the position to score. They don't score for you, right? They put you in position to score because they can anticipate the common objections and situations that you're going to encounter, and they help you overcome them. And we already know what's going to get in the way of the sale. There's 5 core objections. We call them the revenue reapers, right? We'll go through them in a future section, but we already know what those 5 things are. You guys should have a playbook and a system that's going to keep you guys from running into those objections if they are in fact there. And if they are there, then they're not objections. They're reasons why somebody shouldn't purchase, and you get them out of your pipeline. Okay. But every other sales trainer out there that teaches you how to overcome these objections reactively at the end of the process, they're basically telling you, how do you tell your prospect to do something that they already told you they don't want to do? It's a bunch of crap. It's bad process or no process at all. So stop playing open gym, get rid of the bottle caps. Let's install an offense, right? Let's act like professionals here, and let's run something that will get you in position to get the critical information you need every single time.
100%, right? And you said it yourself, right? Everyone wants to have integrity in what they sell. They don't want to sell snake oil, right? Or sell something that they know is going to fail. On my side, personally, it was my name, right? Yeah, I was working for a company, but they knew Chad. I was the face of the company. And that's the part, right? Especially bringing salesmen in, that listening to some of the horror stories for the different industries that they were in, it sucks. It doesn't have to be like that, right? So here's the common objections, right? That I write down, that I see happening all the time. You know what? It's not the right time. We're going to hold off on this. I'm waiting to hear back from my boss. That means that there's another decision maker that we didn't know, right? We're going to go with the lower cost option. That means my value wasn't there. We don't have the budget for this right now. You know what? We're going to do this ourselves. We're going to try it, see what works. If something doesn't work, I'll give you a call back. Or unfortunately, we've awarded this to a different vendor. And that is best case scenario. 99% of the time, guys, they don't ever call you back. They don't ever respond to your email. They don't ever answer the door, right? Or come to the front of the desk. It's done. There was no value inside, or there was not enough value in what you delivered, that they awarded it to someone else and they wrote you off. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Those are not trusted advisor actions, right? Those are not good presentations that build relationships. These are ultimately goodbyes from your customer that we could have stopped, right? So David says it best. It's not about scoring on every single possession, but it's about scoring on more possessions every year. So how do you create, right, a better pool of proposals, a better pool of prospects, right, that are going to buy? And that's what we're talking about here. You want to take us through this, David?
Yeah. So again, guys, we can't say this. It's not about closing every single sale. It's about closing more sales every single month as aligned to the Reapers. So let's just take you guys through the Reapers real quick. Go ahead and go down to the next slide.
It's slow.
It's okay. It needs Red Bull.
It is. It is. I don't think the Reapers is in this one.
No,
I don't think so.
Are you in present mode?
Oh, I'm in present mode.
Oh, that's why it didn't update.
Well, we run with it. So, all right. So I'm going to go through this one. So
No,
you can close. Oh, this is you?
What?
Go.
Yeah. So basically, here are the revenue Reapers, guys. Here's why they're not moving forward. There's 5 reasons: timing, competition, either internal or external, price, trust, or they just don't think you have the right solution, product fit, basically solution fit. Those are the 5 reasons why we're losing deals. Okay. So the idea on this is not to close everybody. The idea is to just stop losing as many prospects as you've had in the past to the timing objection. Get more people to see that they should do it now and not wait another 2 months before it gets really bad. The key to this is how do we stop losing less of our prospects to the competition, internal or external? How do we lose less prospects to price because we didn't polarize them and anchor our price? How do we lose less to a lack of trust because we didn't go through our proven track record, our battle-tested proven results? And how do we lose less prospects ultimately to product fit? That's really the key on this. The key is how do we ensure that we're losing less of these? It's never about 100%, but as soon as you do that, guys, your conversion rate will go up probably by 40 to 50%. Okay. Now today on the urgency side, that's going to drive timing. It's going to drive we need to do this now. So when we go through and execute the specific pain hacking principles on checkpoint 1 that we're going to go through today, you will lose fewer deals to timing objections every single month that you start implementing this. Okay. And that's ultimately what this is. If we go through it, your close rate's at 25% because you're just closing what you believe are the hot leads. And then as you start to eliminate these objections, go down to the other slide, your conversion rate will just continue to increase. Go. Yeah, there you go.
It's slow. It's going.
I know.
So, so what David's talking about, right? And you said it best, there wasn't a visual behind it. So we apologize for that. But what we're talking about is understanding, right? What are all the opportunities in your book of business that's not closing, and then starting to be able to proactively disqualify those clients to where you don't even get to a point to where you're delivering a proposal to a customer that doesn't check the check boxes, right? That doesn't have a problem big enough to act, that doesn't need outside services or help to be able to solve the issue, or ultimately doesn't allow you guys to be able to be the best solution to their problem. So when you start doing that, just like it shows in here, right? Okay, how do we eliminate the do-it-yourselves, the cheaper options, the no budgets, right? The holding off. That's how you increase your close ratio. That's how you spend more time with customers that actually need you. And as you continue to do that, your conversion rate consistently increases. So this is not any type of magic trick, guys. This is how you do it. You put better opportunities, you have a better qualification or ultimately disqualification. And it brings us to the 3 checkpoints, right? Checkpoint 1, do they need to act, right? The idea for this is to be able to eliminate the maybes, and we'll talk about this. But each one of these checkpoints, you are going through a discovery process and you are disqualifying them. The one thing I said right in the beginning of this is I constantly see sales reps see an opportunity and instantly think, as long as they get a proposal out to this, they're doing a great job. Right? I met with the customer, it converted. Yeah, we're going to do a quote for them. We're going to walk the building, right? How many times have you guys showed up to a meeting and the guy said, the telemarketer or the guy who called me said that he just wanted to stop by. He called me 12 times. I just said yes to get him to stop calling me. Raise a hands here. Anybody think that's a great customer we want to meet with? Let's figure it out. What's the problem? What's the goal? What's going on? Yeah, sure, Ryan. So let's find the good clients, right? Let's have good conversations and start with that qualification, or more importantly, the disqualification, so you guys can have higher closing ratios. So we're going to talk about the 3D process, right? So you guys know anything different? It's 4D, and we're going to tell you why it's 4D, because the first D is discovery. That's what we want to do. We want to go in and we want to find out what's going on in the customer, right? Not puke everything about our business, what we do, all that stuff. Number 2, so I can take it inside. So discovery is the situation to determine initially if this is painful enough for them to act. We kind of beat this up at this point right now, right? Is the problem big enough for them to actually spend it? I might hate the color of my house or whatever else it is, but as soon as you tell me it's $70,000 to change the color of my house, well, I don't hate it that bad. So how do you get those tire kickers out of the way? We're going to show you that, right? Second one is diagnosis. So determine the potential problem they're facing, right? That aligns to what your company does. Let's diagnose what's going on. Think about this as being at a doctor's office. It's the same process, right? They come in, they're asking you questions, the nurse, then the doctor comes in, gets a little bit deeper into that situation to figure out what it is. And then ultimately you get to the point where you're demonstrating. We have fixed this before. You guys are an expert in this. And if you guys don't have independent presentations for each product, and I say that because I assume most contractors are doing roof replacements, liquid membranes, repairs, preventative maintenance. If you guys don't have a way to be able to signify your company as an expert in each one of those segments, we're going to talk about that as well, right? So how do you demonstrate that you guys are an expert in exactly the solution that your customer needs? Now, the 4th D in this is decision. The reason we're doing all of this is to be able to drive a clear and confident decision from your customer. You don't want to persuade them. You don't want to force them, right? We want them to have a clear and confident decision based upon the information that we're giving them. So when we talk about this, I know I'm talking first person, right? I'm going to be a sales rep here, and I'm going to go through it and make sure that they check all 3 boxes so I can move forward and give them a quote. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about doing this with your customer, okay? Asking the questions with your customer, because your customer is going to find out as well that, you know what, maybe this isn't big enough that we need to do something about it. Maybe we can do this on our own. And when you can start again eliminating those things, you move from being a contractor who just lost an opportunity to a trusted advisor who's helping this customer get the project finished within their means. That's where relationships come from. Relationships is about helping people, not selling people. And that's where the 4D sales process comes together, driving all of those together to be able to get to your decision. So discovery, diagnosis, demonstration, all of that is going to lead directly into a clear and confident decision, not only for yourself, but also for your customers. And then we're going to get a little bit deeper in this, right? Of what if by the end of every sale, you could confirm, right, that you guys are getting the sale. And I'm not talking about asking for it, because if you have to ask for the sale, that means that there is some type of roadblock that's eliminating the customer from making the decision or giving the contract to you, right? That's following up a week later to be able to say, you know what, can I get the contract? Checking in on the job. Has this been awarded yet? Those are all blanket emails to be able to say, hey, can you give me an update? What we've been able to do is ultimately take this whole process that we're talking about and break it down into an interactive platform where your customer can be on the same page with you. Too many times we do all of these proposals, all of this work to be able to give them a proposal, which we'll talk about, with a bunch of jargon on it. So when you ask these questions, you're able to define what is the priority level, right? 1 through 10, what's the priority level? How important is this project, right? This problem, this goal, how important is it to you based upon what you have going on right now? How many times I went into a situation and we're talking about roofing and they tell me, well, we got to get the HVAC units swapped out first and then we'll move on to roofing. That just went from like, I'm going to sell this next week to I'm going to sell this in 2 months. Understanding that priority can, again, give you a little bit of a pulse for how quickly the job's going to go, right? Or again, how important is it? The second one that we got is ability. So we talk about that second one. Screen's going a little bit slow behind, but the second one is ability. What is the ability for them to be able to solve this on their own, right? That's checkbox 2. They give you an answer, 1 through 10. What's your guys' ability? Do you have the ability to go on the roof? Do you have the ability to be able to make repairs? I know some companies where literally they said they hired a drone company to go take photos of the roof so they can see what it looks like because they're never going on it. That's a big thing to know. And that's a question that we have to ask. And it's a question that's commonly missed because it's that scary question to be able to say, hey, if I ask this question, I'm going to lose the deal. Fact is, you're going to lose the deal no matter what, because once they see it, they're like, you know what, we can do this ourselves, that's what it's about. So then what we're going to get to, we're going to use those priority and ability, and it's going to break it down to 3 questions, guys. 3 questions that are going to align you during your presentation to let you know if you are on track. Number 1, is everyone still aligned to the problems that are going to be solved? Are you clear on how our solution specifically solves them? So I'm not talking about putting a patch on top of a TPO roof. I'm talking about your guys' special sauce, right? What is it about you guys that is so unique that's going to separate you from you? So are we clear on that? Yes or no? If the answer no, or the answer is like, it's okay not to check the box. Go back to the sales process because there's something that they're not understanding. And when there's something that they don't understand, you get objections. And that's the last thing that you want after you've turned over all of your power to the customer. So checkbox 1, right? Or question 1, I should say, confirmation close. Number 2, is everyone still aligned to the expected outcomes if these problems were to be solved? And when I talk about this, we're going to talk about bigger problem down the road and some future ones that we're doing. The bigger problem is not the stained ceiling tile. The bigger problem is not the water on the floor. The bigger problem is the icicle in the cold storage, right? That's hanging 20 feet above. That's a life safety danger, right? What's the impact if this doesn't get fixed? And we're going to talk about what all those questions are. But is the ROI sufficient? The ROI is not the cost of your proposal. This needs to be very, very clear. As a trusted advisor, it is not the cost of your proposal, because 99 or 100% of the time, your proposal does not 100% get that issue resolved where they can get back in the business. If it has to do with interior remediation, floor, carpet replacement, whatever it might be, right? Or even impact, labor side, moving the desks out of the way, whatever it might be, that's what we're talking about on return on investment, right? Is the expected ROI sufficient? Is the ROI enough to be able is the ROI enough for you guys to be able to fund this solution, right? Do you really need it? And then number 3, are we the right solution to solve your current problems and get you guys to your desired outcome? That's really important, because I'm not talking about roofing. I'm not talking about the proposal that I'm going to give them for $10,000. I'm talking about the solution that's going to take them from their current reality to where they want to be. Notice that all of these checkboxes, guys, are customer focused. It's about solving their problem and making sure that they're clear and they're confident that you guys are unique enough, right, to be able to get them from where they are to where they need to be. Again, if they say no to this, or if they say, yeah, no, you guys and the other contractors are great, go back up into your sales process because they're not clear. This is what I'm talking about when you take best practices from 40 years between David and I and put this in. There is a clear path to success, guys. There's a clear process to be able to get in it. And this is where it starts. Anything you want to add to this, David?
Nope. It's just a logic tree, guys. You got to take action. You need outside help. You understand if those two things are true, then it just comes down to, do you understand how we do it? Does the price justify, or does the ROI on your side or the cost justify you spending the money to do this with us? And now, are we the best solution? You lead them to a decision. You lead them to a decision. 40 years, it's us combined. It might just be me alone, Chris. I mean, I could have 40 years of sales experience with this kind of gray hair.
There's an offensive question that came in. It says, where does the 40 years come from? It comes from David's gray hair and then a little bit of mine that you can see right here. So
Chris was saying that we look too young for 40 years worth of experience. I think
we're back in. We're back in.
You know,
we're back in.
I need that. I need that. You know, I don't get that kind of uplift from my wife anymore. So I appreciate that, Chris. All right. Do they need to act, guys? This is the big thing. This is the first thing. If they don't need to act, nothing else matters, right? The common objections we get on this is it's not the right time. We're holding off. I'm waiting to hear back from XYZ, or it's really, we're just delaying this, or we're going to go with a lower cost option, but we're not really going to do anything. The first thing that we need to do in the process is we need to take leadership position. Okay. And taking leadership position is coming into the call, and we're going to say, we're going to do some short, or into the meeting, we're going to do some short rapport building, but we're not going to manipulate them and try to make them our best friends. We're there to help them, right? Just like if you go to a doctor, if they come in, oh man, did you see that game last night? Right? You're literally about to throw up. Oh, I couldn't believe Harden put up 48 on him. Can you believe that? You're like, what are you talking about, man? I need your help, right? It's just short rapport building, and then set the agenda. How is this meeting? How are you, as their trusted advisor, going to get them the value they were looking for by spending their time with you today? Okay. We need to be clear on how that's going to be valuable for them. And they will be more than fine when we state that, to then answer all of our questions. Okay. And then we want to confirm that they're okay with it. Does that sound good? Great. Now, once we do that, then we need to understand what their objective is. This is the most important question in the sales process. Why are they meeting with us? This is the biggest tell, right? Chad said before, if they coulda, they woulda solved it on their own. If this wasn't an urgent priority, they wouldn't have started researching, or they wouldn't have made time to jump on the call. There's plenty of TikTok, Reels, Facebook posts for them to go waste their time with, right? There's plenty of stuff for them to go do. They don't need to be spending their time talking to somebody that's going to try to pressure them, typically, into buying something that they don't need, right? So why are they meeting with us? Well, it's really simple. Again, after the thousands of call reviews, we noticed what the trend was. They're either reacting to an active problem, they're wanting to avoid a near-term issue, they're wanting to prevent a long-term problem, or they're wanting to achieve a goal, right? There's nothing that they see, but they've seen the value of having a plan with roof maintenance. So they want to get one involved here because they're a new employee, and they want to make sure that they're bringing those best practices to this new company. Okay. Why are they meeting with us? Now, if we can get that into an active problem, which it typically is going to be, then we're good. But that's their objective. That's the first step. We start off the meeting and it's boom, boom. As a professional, here's why this is going to be valuable to you. And now I want to know, why the hell are you meeting with me? Let's start there, because that's what's most important.
David, I want to bring one thing up real quick, and this is important, guys. So we're talking about, why are they meeting with us, right? Because they have a problem or a goal that they're trying to get to. Ultimately, in my experience, there's 4 different ways to be able to create an opportunity. And create an opportunity might not be the right wording, but hear me through on this. So number 1, they have a problem that they need fixed. Simple, right? We're talking about that. Number 2, they have a goal that they need to get to, right? Okay, cool. Those are both customer driven. Those are both, they understand what's going on. Number 3 is education. So you have a customer that is open to meet with you to talk about their roof, right? And you can educate them on what's going on. Now, most of the time you can't create a problem, you can't create a goal with education. Now you can get on the roof, right? And again, that comes with education of, hey, what's going on the roof? And then you can educate them maybe on some preventative maintenance that they have to take. That is a way to be able to do it. But it doesn't drive you in to be able to solve a problem, because you can't solve a problem that they don't know they don't have. The last one is kind of the scariest one, and it's exactly that. You scare them into it, and it's done by a lot of newer contractors. How about that? Newer sales reps, to be able to say, oh man, you haven't been on this roof in 5 years. Oh, it's got to be horrible up there. You don't clean out drains. You haven't been, right? That's the fear tactic in that. And ultimately, if you guys have a customer that puts a shield up immediately talking to you, it's because at some point they've probably been screwed over and they're afraid you're going to do the same.
Yep.
So understand that when you guys are going in, those are the 4 primary ways, right? Problem, goal, education, and fear. And if there's something that they're doing to be able to block you guys or make it hard for you guys to be unique, understand that's probably an experience that they've had in the past, right? That they're protecting themselves from having to go through again. And that's a whole discovery process on its own, which we're going to get into. But it's important to be able to understand those stances, guys.
All right. So once we understand their objective, now it's time to understand who's involved with that objective. Okay. So this is it's a very specific formulated strategy to ask the right questions when. Is it delayed?
There we go.
There. Okay. So it's not what questions you're asking, it's how and when you're asking the question. So this is the perfect time to now get decision makers. But notice, I don't get the problem and say, okay, so Chad, so who are the decision makers? Red flag. I'm reeking like a salesperson, right? Because that's for me. Well, no, let's figure out how to ask that question in a way that benefits them. Oh, okay, so here's the problem. Who's responsible typically for these problems? Just to make sure that I'm talking to the right person so I can help. Who has the authority to make the decision on these? Typically, what's your process for these kinds of decisions or purchases, whichever word you want to use there? But we've gone through and evaluated how can we ask this question better and better, because we get consistency. If you guys start executing this process consistently, use this as a starting point, and then you'll be able to refine it into a consistent way that you can ask it specifically every time for your process, for your personality, and it will get you there, guys. You'll be 2 questions in and you'll understand why they're with you and who are the right people to be talking to. And if you don't have the right people then and there, you already know, and you can start to make adjustments on how to get them involved in the process as soon as possible. You can understand what their decision-making process is so that when somebody's asking you when this deal is going to close, you're not, well, I don't know. They told me that they got stuff that they got to talk through maybe next week, because you didn't actually figure out what their process was. Okay. So that's how we get to the point of decision makers. We understand the problem. We understand the main characters involved. Next slide. Yep. And then from there, now the natural progression, again, just like a Venn diagram, comes in. So what have those main characters tried to do to solve this problem already, or accomplish the goal already? And why hasn't it worked at the level needed? So we're up here, problem, Okay, so who's responsible for solving these problems typically? Oh, okay, cool. So what have you done to solve this problem already, and why hasn't it worked at the level needed? And they're just merging into one another. They're not disparate questions that are confusing. It's a story that we're putting together, and the momentum the prospect can feel, right? Like a wave that they can ride to shore, which is ultimately the goal, where they just want to get on safe footing, right? So why hasn't it worked at the level needed? Are they currently using any other contractors? This is our chance to be able to bubble up that information every single time, because we're ultimately just understanding their current reality. Have they tried to solve this problem before and failed? Now, if they haven't tried to solve it and they're immediately just pulling the trigger on bringing somebody out there, that tells you something too. Okay, then the last thing is, what's the worst thing that will happen? So this is what they've currently done. we had Bob the maintenance man trying to figure it out. We can't get it done. He just doesn't know how to do this stuff at this level. He can do small things, but he can't do the big leagues. Da 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 da. Okay, so realistically speaking, then Chad, if you guys continue not to figure this out, what's going on? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Right? We always know that the worst thing that's going to happen is going to be one of three things: be damaged product, some sort, reduced productivity by the team of them not being able to work in that area, or them having to move product, or whatever the thing is, or some slip, fall, hazard, health issue that's got huge liability. It's going to be one of those three. So go in and go figure that out. Right? If they pause, is this leaking on any product? Is this leaking in an area that's impacting productivity? Ask the questions, figure it out, and then probe. Right? Understand, if this issue is not fixed correctly the first time, what are the ramifications? If you don't fix it now, and if it doesn't get fixed correctly the first time, what are the ramifications of that? And open up the reality of that world. And I promise you guys, when you do that, you will take what could be a low quality lead or somebody that's not serious, and you can unpack somebody that is absolutely going to take action on this thing. And what you'll see on that is when you ask it, you'll see something like, good question. Norma's not going to be able to answer the phones. She's already barking at the. Oh, what does Norma do? Oh man, she answers incoming sales calls. Oh God. What happens if she misses a day's worth of sales calls? And then bam, right? Now you've got them antsy, heart racing, sweaty palms, ready to take action, all because of the information that you've been able to extract out of their minds that was already in there. None of this stuff is getting manufactured. It's all real. You're just going in and figuring it out. Okay. And then from there, we just ask that question. Okay. So then based on all that, on a scale of 1 to 10, like how urgent is this? 10 being your top priority one right now, 1 being not a priority at all. And then take that answer. If it's a super painful answer and they give you a 7, oh, wow, I thought your answer was going to be higher than that based on what you said. Or if it's like not a big deal, how big of a priority is it? It's a 10. Well, that doesn't match. I thought it was going to be lower. Tell me more. And then they'll usually open up and tell you what the real issue is that they've been holding back from you because they're one of those people with their guard up. Right? But you're there. You're there. You've gotten the pain systematically every single time. This doesn't have to be hard, guys. It's very hard to score in organized sports if you don't have an offense. The coach comes in, they give you a good offense, magically you can score. That's all we're doing here, guys. Weird thing is that we're the only coaches out there trying to give people an offense to run. That's the only thing that's weird. And just say that sales culture is archaic and they're operating like dinosaurs, say whatever you want, but it's the reality. So again, when we ask this, we said this multiple times, it should be like a Venn diagram. They should connect. What's your problem? Who's responsible for that problem? Who has the authority? How do you guys typically go about solving those problems? What have you guys tried to do already to solve the problem, and why hasn't it worked? If it continues not to work, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? It all bleeds into one another. Okay.
So David, if you're okay with it, we have a couple of minutes here, and I want to show you guys ultimately what this looks like, right? So we're going in here. We've talked about all of this stuff. So do they know why the schedule? You see 3 questions here. This is a conversation. This is one of the biggest things, right? These are 3 questions that needs to be asked. So it's, hey, David, what's going on? How you doing today, man? Typically when someone sits down with me, they have a problem or a goal. Which one is it for you, right? David said his answer. It's like, oh, man, and that's on you to solve? There's my question. There's my personality, right? That's on you to solve? Yeah, that's on me. Okay, so you got to find the contractor, award it, and all that on your own. Yeah, that's my way of asking question 2. Who has the authority, right? You got to find it. You got to award it. Are you the one that writes the PO for it too? Yes, I am. Okay, so you're the one that runs the whole process. Everything runs through you. It's a conversation piece, and you guys can turn it into your own. But what you're doing, who's responsible for solving it, right? Who's the authority? That means if someone else is involved, if this guy can't write the PO, if this guy can't sign your proposal, don't move forward. Don't do it. Ask the question. This is the 2 degrees of separation. that we talk about, right? And some of the stuff that's missed. You have a guy, he takes control. Yeah, I'm the guy, I'm in charge. And then guess what happens? You get the proposal, you give it to him. He goes, I pass it to my boss for approval. You miss that piece. You've handed the proposal over off and you've missed something now, right? Find
You
out.
never got the chance to talk to the boss or try to get the boss involved in the process, right?
Yeah, that's 100% true. Now the guy that you were selling is now selling your product and maybe someone else's, right? You're not even in sales anymore. You're the third person at this at
Right.
best, right? So you guys got to get in there and you
Your
got
leader.
to differentiate yourself from that, right? What have they tried so far to solve this? Why is this important? Because if you guys are proposing something they've already done, you're dead in the water. Again, 2 degrees of separation, guys. Ask the question. Get inquisitive about it. Why hasn't this worked? So it's like, that actually sounds like a decent idea. It didn't work, right? I'm framing, I'm mirroring, right? So he's telling me what's going on. I'm mirroring it back to him. It's like, you replaced all 1,500 fasteners, right? Different sales techniques in here, but that's what we're going about and doing it, right? And it's like, okay, cool. So are you guys using any other contractors right now for repairs or replacements on the facility? That's my nice way of being able to say, hey, who else is in here? Right? Who else are you going about? Find out what's going on, because that pain part can be huge to be able to say, hey, we were using a contractor, but we're not using them anymore because of blah, right? Again, it's all information that you guys are going to use. So what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Remember when I talked about that icicle, right? The icicle is ultimately what is going into the bigger problem, right? The problem is that there's water on the floor. The problem is that the water is turning to ice. Okay, well, why? Who cares? What's it matter? Just walk around it. Well, we can't walk around it because now we got a safety issue. Now the forklifts are driving through there. We got an icicle that's hanging. Now I got a life safety event. We'll teach you guys how to do this, but that's the bigger problem that you guys are going to see. So realistically, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Right? What if you award it to somebody else for a cheaper price and they don't fix it and you got to go through all this again? That's a real question, guys. There's not a more painful question than that. What if you choose the wrong contractor, pay a little bit cheaper than me, but then have to do it again? And it's not the cost. Again, this is not about the cost of the proposal. This is about the impact to their business, because normally that's 10 times the cost of whatever your proposal is. Otherwise, they would not be spending money to fix it. Checkbox 1, do they actually need to act? This tie-in, guys. And then what if you guys don't do anything? I mean, what's it matter? I mean, if you guys didn't do anything, right, and just let it be, what kind of impact do you have to the business? This is leading the horse to water, guys. This is what we're trying to do. Help discover. This is a discovery call, right? Create clarity on what the real problem is. And then much like David said, this is a conversation piece. So we're giving you guys these questions to be able to eliminate that 2 degrees of separation. So you guys have a conversation. And at the end of that part 1 conversation, you should be able to answer the call, right? Or answer the checkbox. Is it big enough to act? And it's okay if it's a no. So what we're going to show you throughout this is ultimately the workspace that we've designed through this. And the workspace, again, creates extreme consistency. So if you're in inside sales, the way I've always used this, guys, screen 1 is my workspace, screen 2, whatever else. But as the customer's giving me information, I'm typing it in and I'm following a process, right? Remember the kickoff that David was talking about? Our goal today is to find the exact issues you're dealing with and ultimately create a solution that helps, that ultimately aligns to your goals. Is that cool? I let them know what's going on. I asked them if it was okay, right? Notice to proceed. Cool. All right. So typically when people jump on the phone with me, see how we did that? It's a process. I know the questions I'm asking. I know why I'm asking those questions, and I'm documenting that stuff. So as we go deeper into this, we're going to explain how to work that with you guys. The one thing I'm going to challenge you guys with, that if you are not role playing, okay, if you do not have somebody, I don't care if it's a family member, your wife, a coworker, if you guys are not role playing to be able to get excellent at your presentation, you do not have a process. Sorry to be mean and aggressive about that, guys, but if you don't have a way to be able to say, I can present 10 times the exact same way, get the same information with the same questions, there's no way that you can guarantee success. And it's almost no way that you're going to be able to duplicate the success that you guys have with somebody else. So if you're a sales leader, that's your role, guys. You need to be able to multiply sales reps that can ramp up fast and be successful. You need that process in place. So that's my challenge to you guys.
Take that a step further, Chad. Guys,
Yeah.
if you guys aren't practicing, you're not professionals. Imagine again, I'm going to take it back to sports. It is analogous, guys. Imagine a sports team or an athlete that doesn't practice. They use the games for practice. That's what the vast majority of salespeople are doing. Oh yeah, I got a couple of sales calls tomorrow. I'm going to try this stuff. What? What are you talking about? Get your freaking butt in front of somebody that you know tonight and practice now before you get into the game, right? And we wonder why we hemorrhage these opportunities. Are we professionals or not? Is this our craft or is it not? Do we value the outcomes that sales will bring us and our families and those that we're serving or not? So, sorry, I just wanted to take it a little bit further.
You're awesome. And going deep into my head, guys, I used to do it with the memo app, right? I'd record it and then I'd listen to it. And that was simply because I was scared that my wife was going to butcher me alive if I role played with her. But maybe that's what I needed to be better. And I say that.
I show my wife like a picture of a Louis Vuitton or something, and I say, do you want this? Then you better role play and you better be good.
There you go.
You know,
right.
like
we're at 3:01. Guys, my request
punctual now. I love it.
And cut you off. Guys, thank you for joining. Show up. Thank you. Share it. That's what I asked. You guys didn't pay anything to be inside here, so I expect to be able to see this shared. If you took something away from it, put it inside the post, share it, tag David and I so we can at least comment on it. The reason we do this is to be able to raise the floor of the commercial roofing side, guys. And this is only checkbox 1. So if you want to see checkbox 2, 3, and the rest of the series, every Tuesday, 2 o'clock, and go kill it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.